Okay, quick disclaimer before we get started. The Blockmates podcast is for entertainment and informational purposes only and does not constitute financial advice. The information and opinions expressed on the podcast are those of the host and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of Blockmates or its affiliates. Listeners are encouraged to do their own research and consult with a financial advisor before making any investment decisions. Blockmates and its affiliates are not liable for any losses or damages incurred as a result of the reliance on the information or opinions expressed on this podcast.
Good morning. We're back on another Good Morning Degen. That was 4 in a row there, which I think was totally intentional. Morning, Grant. Morning, Mike. How are you, fellas?
All good. Mike's already left the building. He's already on the flight. He's already annoying the flight attendants for gin and tonics on the plane.
Yeah, like you say, maybe my prediction was wrong, and we're going to Brown Town instead.
Brown Town? At the end of a fag?
Yeah, exactly.
Careful we're using that word for our American listeners. Just to clarify, that means cigarette.
Yeah.
You can't say it now, Alex.
Sorry,
don't say that, mate. I'm just getting started.
We're going to Goblin Town.
Let's hope not. However, the stats ain't great.
No.
So prices and floors to get us started. We have Bitcoin at 26,100 at the time of speaking, obviously, down 1.8%. We've got ETH 1,781, down 2%, with the total market cap down to 1.15 trillion. Binance outflows of minus 446 million in the past 24 hours. Sorry, I should say. Who do we blame for this?
Everyone. Blame CZ, blame Elon, blame Michael Saylor. Just anyone who's not us, just blame them. That's the way to do it.
Everyone's leveraged. Blame them. It's obviously we've been ranging for days. We've fallen out of range. I suppose we were expecting a big move based on that, but it wasn't to the upside. It was more of a fake out, and then to the depths of not to the depths of hell, but it's not great. Alta aren't looking great. Bleeding most places again. So yeah.
Mine are good technology, so mine are all right.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm telling myself now. I am actually in it for the tech and the long haul again. So
you're a sophisticated market actor who invests in high technology. That's what you are, Mike.
I know, right?
Yeah. I quite liked the narrative until you said that, Grant. I thought we were talking about. But Michael said.
Fear and greed hasn't dropped either, though. So it's like open interest down 2.59%, 24 billion. But I don't know what people are hoping for. I think people are hoping for some indication of debt ceiling relief. I know they're probably gonna wait until sentiment shifts for people to beg them to just increase it, as opposed to them looking like they're just gonna raise the roof on it themselves. So it's all just a big political game, but just need to keep an eye on it. But it is very, very painful at the minute, I think.
I'm just hoping that we get like some positivity at some point.
I just think in terms of sentiment shift and stuff like that, I just don't think you need some really positive news across the board to have a shift at the moment. Obviously, we saw that rally over the first 4 months. In terms of where volumes and that, even like Bitcoin's volume is still completely down. It's just chopping and sideways. Like unless you are a sophisticated market trader in this environment, and you can play both sides. It's probably better off to pocket your shekels and wait for some like better opportunity, in my opinion. Because
some people love this though. Like some people love this like range boundy shit. I'm completely terrible with it because I get greedy when others are greedy and fearful when others are fearful. It should be the other way around. But I much prefer a trending market. But these are like the choppy parts where the market gets too fat and too many people have made too much profit and they've been too vocal about it. So people who are a lot smarter than them like to just go and reset that cycle and take it from them because people are overtrading. So
pockets are getting smaller and smaller in terms of where there's where there's opportunity to make any money, and even then it's not plentiful. It's just short-lived, really, from what I've seen. So across the board. So yeah, it's not exactly a fun week or a fun month, but I guess that's like sell it May and go away sort of thing.
Go away. Yeah.
June soon, no? 6 days.
That's right.
And then we're back to it. Trending market.
There we are, back to it. Bull market. Let's go.
I feel like we've been saying that for like 18 months now. Just constant chop.
It's you, Alex. You need to go back to the you need to go back to the promised land of wage cookery, and because ever since you joined, we've been down lonely for the past like 18 months. You haven't seen the glory days.
I'm sorry.
When it really gets fun.
I'd like to think
even last night, Al was saying, "No, I just don't think there's ever going to be a bull market." I was like, "Do not say that. Do not say that."
I was just looking at things, and I was just like, "We're having a beer." I was like, I was like, "Mate, it's over, you know."
Those are the emotions you need to feel for us to go up.
Yeah. I was like, "Oh,
nice
God."
indicator.
But if anyone else is listening to this in the car on the way to work this morning, I'm sorry for the poisonous negativity that we're spewing in the first 6 minutes of this. We are joking, really. I think we could just spend the rest of this episode, is that what we're calling it, talking about Mike's Dubai plans, if everyone would prefer. But I would, I don't know.
We're now a travel channel. We're pivoting.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Travel
but,
mates, that's what we're called.
Instead, let's talk about the biggest winners. I'm just going to throw that one straight over to you, Grant.
I'm not saying I'm smug or anything, but if you invest in good technology, then you get paid handsomely. So no, it's
talk us through it.
We've been banging about it since we started this new kind of segment, haven't we? So Nvidia kind of blew all expectations out of the water, like quite drastically. And I'll get onto how that's benefited Render and the AI frenzy that is RNDR in a second, but just to give a bit of context of why that is, it's Nvidia's up around 29% post market because the earnings reports came out and Wall Street were pricing in around 7 billion of revenue in Q2, whereas they're expecting to come in around 11 billion plus or minus 2%. So wildly off the mark. And it just shows like the ridiculous demand of how an emerging kind of AI industry and AI industry is kind of booming. So there's a few interesting kind of stats on that particular Nvidia move. So 29% post market move. If the gain holds, its value rise by 219 billion to an all-time high of 974 billion. Would actually beat Apple's largest move ever in the stock market. So they're set to break the biggest single day move if it holds. I'd like to think it would. And the gain in market cap of 219 billion. To put that into context for people, that's effectively the market cap of Ethereum. So they've added the market cap of Ethereum effectively in post market last night. So it's fucking big stuff. And then off the back of it, Render slowly started to look like it was selling off as Bitcoin was breaking its like lows and at support last night. But it's bounced like 14% from that. So if anyone's managed to snipe that, it still looks like it's in its kind of diagonal uptrend. So again, we've talked about it a while. Jedi, when he was on the Hero podcast, was him and Circa were taking the piss out of my thesis and idea around it. But we're not going to do a victory lap yet because I'd like to see it reach its highs. But I think we've kind of been on the money with this one.
Nice. Any thoughts there, Mike, or we'll keep moving?
No, I think it's a bit. Grant's covered it all, really, to be honest.
Holiday mode, baby.
And that's it for this episode.
And that's it for this episode. But just let's I just want to dig into that first a little bit more before we move on. For anyone that would be completely unaware, what is the direct ties to Render with that grant? Can you just give like a top line overview of the connection there?
Yeah, well, the same as anything in crypto, everything's extremely narrative driven, and when people kind of come to this space and they ask like, what's narrative? Like, how does it affect like asset prices? And that's particularly in crypto, all you need is something to be somewhat related to something, and then you start seeing like a higher beta play on something that's actually moving in the real world. So, obviously, Nvidia, huge infrastructure manufacturer play around AI and AR. And as you can see from the earnings, they've had like an absolutely ridiculous Q1, Q2. So people are obviously looking at how do they gain exposure to such kind of baskets of assets in the crypto space. And the way that Render have marketed themselves is like this decentralized GPU. I personally think it's a lot of shit, to be honest, but a narrative's strong enough and it takes hold, and effectively it just acts as a higher beta player. So if and it's a way for people to kind of gain exposure to a narrative that isn't directly just buying in the equities market. So that's why that's moving. We'll have to see what happens at the bell tonight with Nvidia, but I'd kind of expect Render to keep going, I think, but maybe that's the top. I just bought some Mad Lads, so I'm probably going to set the top on that as well. So hopefully don't set the top on Render on this one.
Let's not jinx it too much on the other way. And straight over to biggest losers. So this tweet that we've seen about the multi-chain founders.
Have you got it? Have you got it to bring up?
I do have it. Just bear with me 1 sec.
Because it's kind of mental. Because we've had the founders on the Bookman's podcast and did spaces with them and covered them in articles, and they're like a legit team, you know, like that. One of the founders is like some university professor, like super smart, working on kind of obviously multi-chain infrastructure and stuff like that, and cross-asset bridges and things like that. But this is extremely strange.
So for anyone listening, this tweet that I've pulled up here, which can you guys see my screen by the way right now?
Yeah.
So it's rumored that the multi-chain team has been arrested by the Chinese police with $1.5 billion of contract funds under control, and some team members transferred 494,200 multi-tokens from the team address to Gate today. Please be aware of the risks. Madness, really.
So that's about 2.73 million ish to Gate.io, which is like Gate.io is a funny one because they have very, very lax KYC rules. A lot of people, I'm just going to say this because everyone knows it anyway. People use these kind of exchanges to route money in and out of them because there are no KYC, and you can kind of off ramp without having to declare who's off ramping. So not that should be used as any advice, but that's just what people do. That's why they like these these tier 2 exchanges need stricter KYC rules, or depends which way you kind of think about with that argument. But yeah, as I say, it's a very strange one. Multi-chain's been around for a long time now. I think me and Mike, when we were first cutting around in the early DeFi days, this is something that we picked up very, very, very early. I think it was like 4 million market cap the first time we seen it. But there are ripple effects that can be quite damaging off the back of this. This is like a extremely heavy Phantom related project. It came out initially on its own chain on Fusion. There's a lot of ties to kind of Phantom ecosystem, Andre Cronje and stuff like that. And as the tweet said, as you brought it up, there's like 1.5 billion in assets stored on that chain. Their response on their main account is extremely strange. Let me just bring this up quickly because it uses a word that I don't think is necessary to be used.
Well,
kind of seen.
Go on, you bring that up. I didn't realize you were going to have it so quickly. Right. Go on, read it out for Spotify listeners.
Right. So while most of the cross-chain routes of multi-chain protocol are functioning well, some of the cross-chain routes are unavailable due to force majeure and the time for the service to the resume is unknown. After the service is restored, pending transactions will be credited automatically. Multi-chain will compensate users who are affected during this process, and the compensation plan will be announced later. Why are they using the word force majeure? That makes absolutely no fucking sense whatsoever. It's like when Arbitrum said that they didn't sell any tokens; they just give them to a sophisticated market actor to swap into USDC, but they didn't sell; they just swapped into USDC. So like the way that these kind of, we've spoken about this many times, Alex. Like as soon as shit hits the fan, 99% of people in this space have absolutely no idea how to establish a professional marketing communication to like their audience effectively, and they end up causing more fucking damage than needs to be happened. You know what I mean? So it's very, very
wild.
strange one.
It's wild.
This steals the show for me. So someone's replied to it with like this meme they've quickly spun up saying, "May the force majeure be with you."
So, do you know what else? The first thing that came to my mind there, Force Majeure is a Ruben Östlund film, which, you know, that Triangle of Sadness film that I've been banging on about loads.
Yeah.
So it's the same director, and I watched it recently, and it's about basically a guy who, like this Swedish family, they go on a skiing holiday, and they think that an avalanche is hitting the outside bar that he's at with his wife and 2 kids, and he basically bails. And it turns out it's not an avalanche, and like his wife hates him forever off the back of it. So I reckon someone at Multi-Chain has watched Force Majeure and gone
quite recently.
I'm gonna throw that into our comms. That makes sense. But Mike, you brought this up, didn't you, about Ledger? Like when you tweeted the other day, like when everything was going to shit with Ledger last week, like who on earth was putting their comms out? It was just hilarious.
No, like you just like say you're just stoking the fire, and you know what CT's like it nothing, no stone unturned, and it just spreads like wildfire. And look at that, like look at what Ledger have done in the end. Like they give it all the biggin, including the CEO, giving it all this shit basically, and then they've turned around now and said, "Oh, we're going to put it on hold until we can open source it." So it's just it's like don't die on your sword and then change your mind.
Mate.
Like just do the right thing, and like and again, who the hell are they putting in charge of these accounts? They'll just like have free roam. They think they're Ryanair. Like
I know. Yeah, and like especially when you're communicating with CT, which is like so juiced up anyway, and like on the verge of an absolute implosion at any given time. It's so important that people are communicating properly. It's like that clip that I tweeted of Nick when he said, "And then make it worse." Get it? It just absolutely nailed it from a comms point of view.
And by comms, I don't mean a fucking Discord update.
Yeah, that's what like these people must be getting into these jobs. And like it's like you said there, Grant, we're talking about like multi-chain here, and it's
billions of dollars.
Just
$1.5 billion trapped in their pools. Like, fuck me.
But I don't know. I mean, just to round it up, so the thread that we did pull up there, there's a few extra bits that I'll read out. So it says, the multi-team continues to kick out investors who raise questions in the official Telegram group. There is a high probability that the project indeed has problems. Update. Conflux has suspended multi-chain's core mint privileges to ensure user asset safety. Update. It is rumored that the multi-team was reportedly arrested by the police due to the use of illicit funds using multi-chain for cross-chain transactions in the past. Update. The current situation is that team members cannot get in touch with CEOs. Like, wild.
Me.
And I thought we wouldn't get much juice out of this episode. Bloody hell.
Yeah,
I thought we were in holding mode.
Oh, well. Mike's going to go and find them all in Dubai now and take their keys off them and then transfer it to my wallet.
They can pay for my brunch, to tell you now.
What do we do? How do we take over the comms for like every single business in Web3? I mean, who's safe? Who is safe at this point? OKX and Binance? Maybe.
No.
Maybe not Binance.
I don't think Binance are.
CC's just resorted to saying 4, and that's his response to everything.
Everything, yeah.
OKX look like the
There's that report.
Do a decent
There was
job.
a rumor, wasn't there, in terms of commingling funds? So God knows. It's
Oh,
just all just another week in crypto of fun and games.
another
It's like a
week in
fucking soap
crypto.
opera, man.
Yeah, and that's where we will end it. So another call to please subscribe to the newsletter, where if you want to read this stuff while you're on your lunch break at work or whatever every Tuesday and Thursday, you can also do that. And yeah, that's about it.
And subscribe to this channel as well, you
Yeah.
old peasants.
Yeah, subscribe, yeah. And send us pictures of you listening to it in the car or in the gym or something. That's nice to know that you're listening.
Hey.
Oh well.
All right.
Yep. See you later.